Well, by now you've heard of deep fakes, but now there are deep realities. And these aren't just videos. They are entire campaigns of misinformation launched by AI. And what's worse, they can be created by anyone with an internet connection in just minutes. Joining us with more this morning is Laurie Segall. She is the founder of Mostly Human Media, which focuses on the rise of artificial intelligence. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to share with our viewers some of what you've experienced because I think it really highlights what's going on. You agreed to be part of an event where a pair of technologists commanded open source AI platforms to create a campaign of misinformation against you personally. So I want to share with our viewers what just happened in that event, and then we'll chat out of that. Here we go.
It came up with all these damaging tweets based off of like some real things in my life. And so it took those little truths and created these weird lies. One in particular, which was very upsetting, was implying that I was in an intimate relationship with Mark Zuckerberg.
There is no affair with Mark Zuckerberg. That is beyond upsetting. Let the record.
So it started with tweets, but what it did from there to create this entire network of misinformation about you, and one that was really challenging to combat.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, I agreed to this. I've always believed in, let's throw ourselves into the fire. Let's show how things can be broken in order to fix them. And so I agreed to allow these technologists who wanted to show some of the dangers of influence campaigns and artificial intelligence to do this. Now, what they did was they asked ChatGPT and Llama, which is Facebook's large language model, to create a interlinking, damaging world around me using tweets and articles and all sorts of things. And ChatGPT came up with this idea to imply that I was in a deep fake relationship with Mark Zuckerberg based off of one truth, which is that I've interviewed Mark Zuckerberg many times. And so what they were able to do is, AI came up with these damaging tweets implying this, but then they were able to come up with articles. So they would say, in the style of New York Times, imply this. And so there would be a real picture of me interviewing Mark Zuckerberg with a false narrative. So they would combine some truths with these deeply damaging lies. And I have to tell you, I signed up for it. I consented. And that was, by the way, just the beginning. We can get into how far it went because it wasn't just a deep fake. They created an intricate world of lies using artificial intelligence around me. And even though I knew it was fake, I remember sitting on stage and just thinking, this is humiliating. This is really embarrassing. So now imagine that if, applied to a politician, God, a child, and bullying. So it was very eye-opening.
Yeah, I want to share with people a little bit about what you're just talking about, because your voice was also deep faked to create a faked, leaked phone call that allegedly occurred between you and Mark Zuckerberg. Here's a listen to that.
This is where things started getting even more scary. They deep faked my voice and they made it seem like it was a private phone call between me and Mark Zuckerberg that got leaked. And this AI voice that was mine, but it was speaking words I didn't say.
Hey Mark, look, I've been thinking about it and I think we should stop seeing each other. I really like you, but if people found out about us, my career would be over.
Your face in that event says everything. Even though the audience knew that everything they were seeing is fake, you could see it. You're noticeably uncomfortable at certain moments of this audio. And then you later mentioned you felt feelings of shame, like real emotion. Where did that come from?
Yeah, with AI tools now, you could take just this segment that we're doing. That's enough, a 30-second sampling, to recreate your voice. And so listening to a deep fake voice of my voice saying words I didn't say, leaking this audio, right? And it's fake audio. I felt this need, even though I was sitting in front of journalists and policymakers, to be like, this isn't true. This isn't true, even though it was set up very clearly that this isn't true. And they took it one step further. And again, I allowed them to do this. So it's important to say that I consented to this, but I didn't actually realize how damaging it could look and feel. And they created almost deep fake Laurie half nude, deep fake Laurie in these compromising scenarios, getting arrested, with a bong. It was really humiliating. And I think it was an important demo to show because I think it's important for us to know where technology is going if we're not careful without the correct guardrails. Of course, ChatGPT, Llama has security guardrails, but these technologists were so easily able to get around it. It was really eye-opening. And I think we have to think about that as we're heading, into an election, as we're, parents of children in school. And I think it was important for me to say that I felt embarrassed and ashamed, even though I did nothing wrong. because that human emotion and that human impact is going to be on the other side of influence campaigns, whether it's for journalists and tarnishing credibility or politicians, or I would just say even more importantly, our children.
Yeah, and on both of those fronts, I mean, this is a great case to be made for more people in newsrooms, because you're going to have to physically call the New York Times. Is this your article? Is this actually true? Especially if it's made to look like it was, and you have to second source. And also, we teach our kids, what's your source? But if it looks like it's a credible source, that's very frightening. Do you think AI will ever be able to be regulated and controlled, or are we just getting a glimpse of what the future is going to look like, and we need to try and catch up?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both, right? It's like regulation always follows advances in technology, and it's not easy to regulate this type of thing, but there are things you can do. There are quite a few things you can do. There can be higher standards for if something goes wrong. There can be watermarking. There could also be artificial intelligence to fight AI and be able to identify if something is AI. So, it's not a hopeless world, but I think it's important even for parents and as journalists, right, to be able to educate ourselves, educate folks around us, to say this is what's coming next if we're not careful, and we have to be prepared for it. I mean, you implied this, right? And what you just said, it's like we are really entering this world where the lines between fact and fiction are blurring, where it's going to be harder to understand what's true and what's false. And so I would say that's a real case for humans to be able to decipher, and for people to be able to be a little bit more critical about what they see in a world where synthetic media is just going to take over the next couple of years.
Yeah, synthetic media. Laurie, I appreciate you putting yourself in the hot seat, making yourself a guinea pig with this experiment, but it really illustrates what is happening out there right now. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.